Yes, we are live. Vibha, would you like to take over?
Yeah. So, hello everyone. DQ Labs, Design Quotient Labs, believes deeply that design has the power to make the lives of millions of people simple, beautiful, efficient, and memorable. With this belief, the founders of DQ Labs, Sean Disa and Umesh Kumar, both alumni of IIT Delhi, having a collective design industry experience of about 40 plus man years, have embarked on a journey to create design superheroes. In the last 13 years, they have mentored more than 12,000 plus students in creative careers. They are trying to achieve it by giving awareness, exposure, counseling, training, and mentoring to design aspirants, not only to get into the top design, architecture, and fashion colleges all across the world, but but also going beyond to help them settle in their professional careers as well. Many aspiring design students and their parents are unaware of the creative professions and hence have many questions. To bridge this gap, each week, DQ Labs invites creative professionals in the fields of architecture, fashion, and design. The invited creative professionals will be explaining about one of their projects, the challenges they have gone through while executing their design projects, the design process they have adopted, and many more interesting aspects of their profession. They will also talk about their story of becoming who they are now. We have had many interesting, accomplished professionals in the past. The e-meets have attracted design aspirants all across India and their parents who are holding high positions at the CXO and professional levels as well. So today we're absolutely elated to have with us Mr. Raghavendra Rathore, celebrated fashion designer, who is the owner of the fashion brand Raghavendra Rathore, and also the founder of the Gurukul School of Design. I would now like to request Prisha Gunawar at DQ Labs to introduce Mr. Raghavendra Rathore.
Uh, Prisha, you have to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Vibha. Born in the royal family of Jodhpur, raised in the Zanana, dodged 105 Pakistan bombs that flattened his school, Sanskrit shloka reciter, spiritualist, state swimmer, electronics genius, inventor of interactive robots and jeans that beep when picked, vintage car restorer, jellyfish attack survivor, studied astronomy, Greek mythology, modern American fiction, and design. Paid fees by washing dishes and scraping paint off old houses for $5 per hour. Created of created work of art from junk, sold it for $8,000. Imprisoned in a Louisiana jail on mistaken identity. Rescued by a mysterious blonde. Antique fan collector, BBC host, artist, hotelier, chocolatier, welder, carpenter, interior designer, bartender, lifestyle merchant, makes the best penny arrabbiata east of Campania, owner of two fashion labels, Zegna as a partner in one. Raghavendra Rathore. He assisted Donna Karan and Oscar de la Rante with Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, and Iman as mannequins, and dressed and undressed some of the most beautiful people in the world.
I would like to thank you for that introduction. I know it's actually from an ad that Times of India ran some years ago. So it's a good summary of my life. But thank you so much, Prisha. It's very kind of you to say that. Um, would you like to ask me a question? Shall I just rattle off and talk, please?
Okay, I suggest if we can have a video introducing RR and his work.
Sure.
Can we play the video, please?
classic past, as well as sharp tailoring, taking the best elements of our cultural past and dressing us in a way that we can be proud to be dressed as Indians. The kind of time that it looks back to and the kind of era it recreates in my mind is something that romantic, nostalgically I connect to and like.
Raghavendra Rathore, Bangla, nobody in the world can beat. You may bring the best tailors from Italy, from London, but just the shape and the fit of it, nobody can even touch it.
It makes me feel good. That's the most important thing. And I'm finally feeling comfortable in what he's made me wear. And that's the most important.
RR is it's got a very international look to it, but it's got a very stylish Indian tinge to it. So I think that's a good combination he has.
Is a fantastic human being, great artist, and his brand. I'm so happy that it's going global. I always knew that he is not only a national treasure, but he's a global treasure.
He mixes his Indian heritage with a global aesthetic, and I think it's there for the world to take and enjoy.
Start working with him and start using his clothes, I don't think anyone is going to go anywhere.
I think Mr. Raghavendra Rathore is the most qualified person to do the kind of styling that he does.
I think that RR is more than just a clothing brand. I think it's an experience, it's a feeling, it's a cultural expression of India and an authentic one. And the detailing that goes into it, you're right, it's a form of luxury to be in one of his garments.
Rajasthan, how beautiful it is. When you go there and you feel as if you're royalty. No matter where you are, how you are, you feel that sense of royalty. And if you wear a raghu, you feel even more royal.
Wow, that is very impressive. Very nice to see that.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Raghavendra Rathore, we would like to understand, there are a lot of design aspirants today attending this session, and the parents as well. So, especially these students and parents, they do not have any kind of a design background, So, and they want their child to embark on a journey which seems promising and which has a lot of potential. And they often do not get an opportunity to meet the real life designers and understand firsthand, what to expect in a profession like this, and how they can support their children and etc. So that is the reason why we are organizing this industry E-Meet, and we are trying to bridge that gap. Okay, and in the process, we also would like to know your journey, your story. Now, what you have become is not an easy thing to become, right? Not everybody can do that. So you have been there, you have done that, and we would definitely would like to know your insights of your journey. And if you can also throw some light on the design process that you adopt and how you work with your team to create these bespoke, fantastic, unique garments. Could you please throw some light on that?
So I think, firstly, thank you for taking the time. It's Sunday. Everybody who's here is obviously here for a reason to understand what are the potential values that this profession can offer. I welcome you all and thank you again. I come from a very small town, well, not small anymore, but I always start by reflecting on the early years, because in Jodhpur, to think of fashion and to have parents who simply loved me and supported me, but had no consequential understanding of the subject of fashion, is exactly where I see a couple of students I spoke this morning to. I've spoken to a lot of students over the last 2 weeks. And I think everybody wants to know one question, is that, is this investment in my daughter, my son, or the student or the designer worth it? I mean, everybody wants to know what is the dividends or what am I guaranteed will become of the investment that goes into the education of these 4 years. So I'll break it up into simple couple of points. That the first thing is that officiate it. So if you're getting a degree, which is a design degree at the end of the 4 years, that's one tick. You don't have to worry about everything else. If you're not getting a design degree, we can have a separate discussion about it. When I say design degree, I mean a design degree, which is either BDES, which UGC gives from the Indian government, because that is what you talk to the press about. When you're a brand, they'll ask you, what did you do in your life? And if you say, I did social science, or if I did something else, it's a very disconnected story. So in India, I think this is very important, that please make sure that whichever school or wherever the kids want to go are being offered a degree, not a diploma, but a degree. Now that could be an affiliation like ours, or it could be like when I went to Parsons in New York, the new school gave the degree, not Parsons School of Design, because a college by itself can't give it, it has to be officiated. The importance of that is not much more than when you are a brand, when you're a respectable person in society, people look at you and say, yes, you did something that officiates your profession. The second thing is the decision of students to do this or that. A lot of students are confused between being an artist or a designer. What are the perils, what are the positives, and what are the negatives of being either of the two? So if you're a fashion designer, or if you're a jewelry designer, if you're a product designer, or you're a textile designer, you are in box number 1. But if you're an artist or a person who writes blogs, then you're in a box number 2. So the difference between the two boxes is that the fashion business, because it is seasonal, it pushes the industry or whatever you come in contact with to look at you twice in a year. What that means is that if I have a collection as a jewelry designer, I'll probably have 2 collections, one winter, one summer collection. If I'm a fashion designer, same thing applies. In textile also, you break it up into 6 months and 6 months. So what happens is, if you to simplify that, so if you create a collection of, let's say, bangles or a particular lehengas or skirts, you will get 2 opportunities to push yourself as a brand in 1 year, which is 12 months. So that's fashion or the design world. But when you look at the universe on the other side, which is the artistic, which does not have any cycles. So you could take 10 years to make a painting or an artwork, or you can take 6 months to make an artwork, but there's no compulsion for you to finish it in a certain amount of time. So if you are an artist, you are free to do what you want to do. Depending on how successful you are, you will make your wealth at the end of a 10-year journey. Let's say there are 2 individuals, Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A gets into design, Mr. B gets into art. The beauty of the end of 10 years, when you do an evaluation, is that people who got into design have had almost 20 opportunities, because the season changes twice a year. But the person who's chosen to be an artist has had that, that is seamless. You can do art in 2 years. I have friends who are working on 3 works of art, one for next year, one for next to next year. So depending on how good you are as an artist, your monetary wealth, the money that you bring back to raise your own family, is based on that. But if you are a person who's into design, you get many more opportunities. So I personally think that if I had a son or a daughter, which I do both, and I keep on telling them that push yourself to understand the nuance of modern technology and your passion. If you can align those two things, you can actually make product today and you can sell it tomorrow. And then therefore you have a successful life later on. So whatever advice any counselor is giving or any school is giving, the bottom line is how much does my son, my daughter, or me as a designer, whoever is asking this advice, make after finishing the school? So the answer to that is that technically you should be able to start making certain amount of wealth 1 to 2 years after you finish a design course. Now, in the old days, when I say old days, I mean 2 years ago and 3 years ago and 10 years ago, you could be working for A company and B company and not knowing what's going on, and life would move on. So the first lesson that I teach, at least in GSD, is to make a timetable. Every student must know what the parents' lifespan is, what their lifespan is, what is the passion. Everything is put on a board. So it's a very realistic and a very honest, that's what makes them come to school on time, because they're doing this for themselves. They're not doing this to pass through and get a degree. That you can do you can go to Delhi University or whichever university and get a degree. The reason you're doing that is that you can pay back the obligation that you've taken, which the parents are never going to ask for. No one's going to say that, hey, I put you through school and I put you through college, please pay me back. But technically it is a loan. It is a loan that your obligation as a designer in a design school is to pay back really fast. It may not be in monetary, it could be in a different value, but you must be able to pay back a certain amount of money. So you have to make a target. So when you join a school, if you don't know what your target is, you could finish and be a great illustrator, great painter, great fashion designer. So it is very important to put context of business. From the 2nd to 3rd year, you need to brainwash the children to understand that you're doing this for yourself. You're not doing this for any other person. And the mistakes that we have made, my generation, we did too many fashion shows, I think in the 80s. I wish that money we could have saved and put that money in our business. I remember a show in Goa with Madhu Sapre and Milind Soman starting the runway. I think we spent about 30 to 40 lakhs each designer. That's about 2.5 crores was spent in that. There was a show I did in Delhi, which was sponsored. And I think my own show, it was what, 1 crore 25. That was one show. We had fountains in the center of the runway. And today when I look back and I say, these are the kind of pitfalls that I don't want the next generation to be doing, that you spend so much money in creating the set or the atmosphere of the fashion event. I rather do that for 10 lakhs now and put the rest of the money in the business. Those are the values that we have created this course called Design 360. The difference between other schools is that they are actually working with different schools in New York, or they're working with affiliated school in London, and they're following a very chartered course. At GSD, what I said that, if I'm starting a school, it doesn't make sense for me to just do a tie-up with, I can call up, I speak to the Parsons dean very frequently. For me, there is no value for students to learn what is good for New York and implement it in India. In India, you need to do, unfortunately, there's only one crass word called jugaad. You need to sit on the floor and cut the pattern. You need to be, you need to talk to the tailor in a particular way to create what's in your mind. That knowledge can only come if you have a course that teaches that. You can't go to New York or London and come and try to start a company and say, okay, I'll manage it. So in a summary, I'm trying to say is that my journey from a small town was was a discovery, because I never did doodles in my my sketchbooks to be a fashion designer. I, in fact, didn't know for many years that there's a profession as fashion. I started, I went into robotics, into Greek mythology, and then I got into design. So it's okay if students are confused when they come in. The process of how one will create products today, or creates product today, and what the process will be in the next 3 to 4 years is going to be very different. And I think the more contemporary your course is, the more closeness you have with your faculty, the student-faculty ratio. If you have 10 to 15 people in your class versus having 25 to 30 children, the focus and the investment of your fee that you pay to get, through 4 years will be justified. When you realize that that you are actually learning very, very personalized, it's like the guru and the Shishya thing. You can actually knock on everybody's door at any time and say, listen, I have a great idea. How do I take it forward? That access is very important. It cannot be a cookie, just go to a school and you will come out as a process. It doesn't work like that. The faculty must know each and every assignment you're doing. So I'm very, very clear that our system is very different from what we are seeing in other schools. I teach at other schools. I've surprised myself by walking there and giving a talk, and I couldn't even hear myself because there were so many people in the corridor who were chit-chatting, and I felt that why are people here if they're not interested in learning? And that thought has resonated for last 10 years in my head, that you create a place where people only come if they're sincere and very, very genuine. And therefore the exam, which I think we have 30th, we have an exam, online exam. We are not looking at you to be an amazing illustrator or amazing textile maverick. You need to show dedication, that you want to invest in yourself to be a brand, and you really mean business. That's the kind of SCI or the test that we do, is to see how much are you willing to give. If we are willing to give 50%, are you willing to give 30%? Are you willing to give 50%? All we ask is that you give 50%, and you are probably going to be educated by not only industry knowledge, because what is happening in our company, we're designing uniforms for Geo. We are working with some fascinating projects right now. It is all part of sharing it with the students at this stage. So by the time they graduate, they have an understanding as to how this industry works. Who are the big guys to speak to? How do I go and show my work to so-and-so? Those are very important things, because that itself takes 3 years to do. If you are just a person from a school with a portfolio and you send emails, I don't think anybody's going to give you a job. You need to go to the owner of the company. In fact, we don't have internships. We have something called mentorship, which is you go and mentor with the person who owns the company. So as a parent, I feel secure that my son or my daughter is not stuck at some awful hour in some tempo in old Delhi trying to buy fabric as an internship, but they're interacting with the owners, and it's a 7-day program. That's it. You go to Delhi, you meet the owners of the company, you understand how they micromanage, how they run businesses, what is a business about. Because eventually everybody wants to be an entrepreneur once you graduate. People may say, no, I'm not interested in being an entrepreneur. I don't want to start my own label. I just want to work in the export industry. I'm sorry to surprise them that this industry is dead. There is nothing happening in the exports. So the summary of what I'm saying, that my journey, I would like to tell that to you at some other time, because it's a very twisted journey. And I just believed very strongly in luck, in being at the place at the right time, and actually throwing myself in the deep end and finding the way to get to the edge. It was very important to do things, because a lot of people keep on waiting that I'll do it once I graduate, or I'll do it when I have something. You don't realize that, life is passing you by. So constantly you should be trying to do what you want to do 10 years from now, 5 years from now, and now. And that's what this program at GSD is about, which is called Design 360. It's a reflection of not only my life or my journey, but it's also a reflection of Anamika and a couple of other top designers that I used to sit and take notes with them when I was setting up the school, and saying what are the kind of pitfalls they had what is the succession plan? How do you take it now? When Anita Dongre came to school the other day, she spoke about Jaipur. And she says, you guys are sitting in a gold mine. The mistake people make is that they go to Delhi or to Bombay and think that because it's metro, you'll move faster. But if you're actually displaced in design, is different. If you are in a place which is smaller, you have more attention with people. When you have the lit fest there, you have interaction with lots of people. You can go to Sanganer and see the most beautiful prints that are being made by Yoji Yamamoto. I was just talking about it the other day, that to be away from the hustle and the bustle is sometimes very important, because this is what nurturing is all about, is to be able to learn design from the grassroots up. It's very easy to go to Google and start looking at something and doing, but have you ever gone and seen how does a block printer make a block? What is the process? How does he make sure the wood is carved? What happens, and what is the kind of chemical they use, which is called bio or future, sustainable future? What kind of materials they use? All that stuff is around the school, and therefore it was very important for us to set up the school in Jaipur, because it is a cultural hub. And secondly, it's also, to me, I think it's very important to have a degree when you graduate. And we had a partnership with, the JECRC campus, which is right next to us, which has all the machinery in the world. They have wax machines. They have, so if you have an idea, you want to make a bracelet, you can actually make it in wax, and you can go and, put blue color to it and take a picture, take it to Photoshop and make this beautiful product design that you want. All that I think will start happening for the third year kids this year. And the process of design, as asked, is very simple, that you first get the context of the business. So if I'm asked to design uniforms, I first ask my design team, what is the bandwidth of, how many designs does one need? They said, well, it's a lake palace. They need 25 designs. So in my mind, I think of the team that I have and the salaries that I pay my designers. And I say that, okay, if I pay so much money to my design team and my profit cycle is this, I should be charging X amount. That's the first thought that goes. I'm a designer, but I think first business. So if the client is not willing to pay you money, why would you want to waste your energy? So it's very important that that training that I've, over these 30 years I've learned, I would like to impart in students, that before you take any project, you have to analyze it in very simple processes. That does it make wealth? If it doesn't make wealth, avoid it. Move to something that will make wealth. The idea of design is that you have this amazing idea in your mind. You don't know how to express it. That's what we teach at Design 360 in Gurukul School of Design. Your fluffy idea from your mind is translated onto paper, and there's a value added to it, and that you go to the market and get rewarded in terms of revenue. So fashion is not so important. Idea is very important. And what is the value you can get back? Once you have these two understanding, then you can take on a process of design, whether it is a collection. So if you're designing a collection of 12 designs and you're selling it on Amazon, you have to ask yourself that what is the competition selling their shirts for, their skirts for, or their lehengas for, or their bangles for. And I think it's very important for you to understand the landscape. Once you know that Pernia pop-up shop is selling it for 2,000 rupees and Rohit Bal is selling it for 6,000 rupees, then I want to create a product which is somewhere in the sweet spot in the center. So once you understand the finance, that's why I'm always saying finance is the most important thing, which a lot of schools don't teach. They focus on fashion, they focus on how to create croquis and fabrics. They forget about the basic crux of why you're doing what you're doing. And I think once you know that you can actually make profit from it, then you get into the second stage, which is design. And then I can discuss that more detail to anybody who likes to know. But the idea really is that it's very important for us to recognize that this brick and mortar arrangement with real estate and landlords and deposits is all going to change. It's already changing after COVID. So the the new business plan for young designers who graduate this year or the next year is going to be very different from what was being taught. So if the schools don't adapt to the changing needs of the market and they teach the kids the wrong thing, which is a very generic information, and that also from a different part of the world, I just think it's a huge a crisis. Once you graduate, you're suddenly like, oh my God, now what do I do? That's why people are so insecure and they don't want to start their own business, because they're so used to learning something from this very slow-paced methodology, which has been there for the last 20 years. I sat on a couple of schools, I don't want to give names, but when we were creating the courses for them 20 years ago and 10 years ago, I kept on asking them, what is it that's going to update this course? How do you make it more live? You know, no one's really going to websites. Everybody's surfing on Instagram. I want to sell my product on Instagram, but you're teaching me how to make a website. Why is it not important to teach, you know, the more newer nuances? And these are the things that the foundation of GSD is, which is purely this course, Design 360. I can answer what this course is separately if you ask. I'm sorry, I'm giving a very long, I always do that. I give you a long answer to a small question. My apologies for that. Umesh, you can ask.
It's quite fascinating to hear. So you are in the industry and you have learned a lot, and you were also an academician. You are associating with schools. And you have found the things that are lagging in those schools, and then um, is that how you have started or initiated your own school, because you felt that you can do much more better, or you can create the future design superheroes, you know, in a much more efficient way. I really like the example that you have taken, where the schools are teaching how to create websites, whereas people are all using Instagrams, you know. And I definitely agree that the schools generally, in general, you know, um, they're hankering on old curriculum, and they're not very quick in terms of changing the curriculum, right? So I think you being in the design industry and you see the changes and you're able to bring in those changes immediately to the curriculum, I see that as a great advantage, isn't it? I mean, um, can you please tell the motivation behind having a design school?
So, Umesh, I think it was very evident. I realized that when you know, we get about 30 or 40 inquiries every month for good job positioning, designer positions in a company. And I asked Rasleen, who's my assistant, she's on the line. I said, what can this student do besides design? I don't need designers. I'm a designer. I have 10 other designers working in my company who have been with me for 10 years. And most designers have designers who've been there for over 3 to 5 years. So what is the position? What are you preparing students for? If I was to be, let's say, the textile minister, I would ask the design schools saying that, what are you preparing these students for? So the answers are very interesting. I've not, really asked the schools, but I've had interviews with students who are exceptionally good. I mean, we are very meticulous in selecting a student who has a certain USPs, unique selling points, and not a generic portfolio. So if you're using plastic in your portfolio, we don't even entertain. If somebody walks into my head designer's office with plastic, they don't even look at the portfolio. That just shows that you're not thought your presentation. So, your process is, so what will you do to enhance my product? If I have to hire somebody, I need to find somebody who's better than my present team. So the first question is that, which school in India is preparing students to do something like that? That's the first question. So if you ask me that, I personally have a huge problem, because any school that has more than 25 kids in a class must either be very, very efficient or be able to teach individually to those kids separately, because you can't teach 25 designers. I mean, try to get 3 chefs in a kitchen and see what happens. So to have 25 designers sitting in a design room in the 4th year, I just think it's a very American concept. It's a very English concept. But if you see what Dronacharya was doing and how he played the role of what he did and created a sort of a passage for all of us to sort of reflect on, is what I just thought is the need of the time. When you graduate from a school, you should be a product. You should be a brand. I think the mistake design schools are making right now, they're making students to go and study or go and work in other designers' offices.
Mhm.
That is not relevant. I'm trying to shake up everybody. I'm talking about having ministerial level textile ministry discussion, trying to shake up that today a design house is looking for people who can hashtag, who can write content, can get 3 colors right, be able to create hand sketches and not depend heavily on tools like iPad and the sketch pencil and Photoshop. The whole idea of originality is the future. If you are training to be like everybody else, and 25 people have gone and done an interview in the same job that you're applying, you are the 25th person or 26th person. There's nothing different about you. So if you go and study in a village and you come in, I mean, I'm telling you, this has happened to me in my life that World Gold Council had hired me for a year to be their brand ambassador. And my job was to go to every design school from NID to I mean, 75 schools were given to us. And we went to each and every campus to see what kind of talent existed. And I also remember going to IIT because you are a good, anthem of IIT. I think what we realized is that one kid who couldn't speak English at Gandhinagar met me outside with my team, which I had a South African designer with me, and we were having lunch. It was given to us in banana leaf. So everything was recyclable, very nice concept. And he took one of those plates made out of leaves, and he made a product, a earring out of banana leaf and twigs. And you had to see, I mean, I wish I had taken a picture of it. I would put it on the cover of Design for Time magazine. It was so beautiful because he reminded me of Eklavya. He, to me, was the source of what we are trying to do at GSD. I've tried to get in touch with him to come and teach at school. We don't know, we lost him because he was so shy. He was, he created the most beautiful jewelry piece out of leaves and twigs. And that is the genius that we are trying to find in India, that why should everybody use Photoshop? Why can't they use their hands and create some product? That's what people in my position are looking for. In my job, if I'm looking for a person to join, you would be surprised to know that GSD is designed by a textile designer. We never hired an architect. We just said that we want the classrooms to look like lounges. Kids should be able to walk in with coffee in their hand and sit on sofas. It should not look like a school, and that's what we've built there. And I think, to me, I think that's a great testament of what our vision is, that we really want, like once you shut the main gate, which unfortunately it's a startup, so we have hiccups. But if you have a gate, a present gate, you can leave it open and the flies get inside. But the design of the building is such that the classrooms are fly-proof, as in, I mean, in my office, if I get a fly, I fire everybody. I mean, I'm very particular that, if I'm sketching and I'm focused on something and I have a customer sitting in front of me, you cannot be worried about flies. There's a huge problem in Shahpur and places where all the design houses are in Delhi. To me, as a designer, it's so important to design a building which has those German windows, which we have used in GSD. It's a lot of money spent. I remember, other people coming and laughing at us, saying that you were spending so much money on the thing. I said, I want the rooms to be, air conditioned. I don't want my designers learning, because this is how their life is going to be after they graduate. So if you're sitting in a office in Bangalore or in Delhi, and you have flies there, you will see that no one's going to knock on your door. Once they'll come, they'll say, my God, the guy doesn't know how to really sell luxury. And so it's very important to have a classroom that reflects their future offices. We have bamboos on the roof instead of POP. We don't have POP in the school. We use the idea of nature in the room. And I think it's very important that kids don't feel scared going to a classroom and say, oh my God, it's a Monday morning and it should be a playful place. You know, they have the freedom to play. And I think the first batch, Aditi can talk more about it. They surprised me with the music session the other day. And really, I wish I could play a video of that the entire first year batch actually plays a guitar, you know. So to me, I think that's the culture of a design school, and that's what we are trying to do at GST.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So I think some students have a few questions. I think those questions are more about your work and trying to understand your thoughts on your the garments that you create and all that. Okay. So Viva, can we start with you? Would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful insights. I had one question for you. Could you please explain to us how different it is in dressing a public figure versus a non-public figure?
So, you know, Viva, the important thing is that as a designer, your job is to give your best to anybody who walks through your door. So whether the person is a celebrity or not, you should do your best. But if the person already is so famous, it's easy for you because then you have to just look at 25 pictures and see what they're like. The difficult thing is when you actually have a person who says that, you know, I had a customer who walked in wearing very strange shoes. And I sat there in my office and I stared for a minute and I couldn't understand why, you know, he was very handsomely dressed, but the shoes were just from a different era. And when he left, I actually asked my assistant to do some more. I'm talking about 15 years ago. This person goes back to Bangalore, and my assistant reaches out and says that, you know, we've got a couple of designs ready for you, but we want to understand what kind of shoes does Sir like? Because I had that question. And I think the mystery of a person who walks in versus having a Sonam Kapoor or a person you know how to dress them, because they will dress for the camera. It's very simple. They don't dress. They want something new every day when they go out. So Bollywood or people with a certain stature in society will always have, the requirement will not be about themselves. It'll be more about, you know, I like sleeves, I don't like sleeves, that kind of a discussion. And it'll be generally what looks nice on a camera. But when you're designing for somebody you don't know, and this person turned out to be the wealthiest person from Silicon Valley who now he's a customer for life with us, because I think that's very important, that for you to know and understand your customer, even if it is something as quaint as about the shoes, if you can understand your customer's needs, you'll be able to better design their requests and their demands. So I think the difference is, of course, that one is the unknown. So it's a throw of dice. And the best thing is to show them lots of things, because one of those things will really catch their attention, and that's your customer. Versus designing for somebody like when we did Mr. Amitabh Bachchan for Eklavya, the movie, I kind of knew because the personality or the character's, you know, script already had that he's wearing a tight jacket or something. So you can pick up from there as a designer and build your story. So it's more interesting to actually design for people you don't know very much about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dhanusha, you can, yeah, go ahead. You can unmute your mic, please.
Sir?
Hi, how are you? Good,
sir. Sir, I would like to ask you, in your terms, how do you define luxury?
You know, so it's a very interesting discussion we were having the other day about this. And to me, I'll tell you what, so I have two kids. They're now much older than when I was, when I could carry them in my hands. I used to take them to a little village in the jungle in Ranthambore. And in the village outside near a lake, there's a charpai. And it's actually kept in the field, which grows wheat. In Rajasthan, when you see wheat, you just get very ecstatic because it's very rare. But there's a lake in front. But when you sit on the charpai and you put your hands through like this, you can feel the wheat in your hand. I mean, there's greenness, and you can hear the sound of the water pump, which works on diesel. So every time you go there, they put the pump on. It works on gravity and makes that lovely sound every 2 minutes. Makes poop 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 karke. So to me, to sit there in the night and look at the stars with my children and my wife was the most luxurious moment in my life. So I always emulate that with my design team in my office. Is that don't mistake products to be luxury. Luxury is it's a momentary. It comes and it goes. It doesn't stay forever. You can live in a palace, but if you go meet the king who lives in the palace, has 1,000 problems because you live in a palace. The same thing. If you watch a movie and you see this movie and somebody is playing this amazing role of a very wealthy person, it's a momentary lapse which doesn't last for anything that lasts for more than a minute or 20 minutes is not luxury. So to me, luxury is that 30 seconds before you touch the bed and you're not standing, when you have had a rough day, in that transit of falling onto your bed, you feel that satisfaction of tiredness and console that you're going to be finally resting is the moment of luxury. And if you can take that emotion and put it into your product, whether it's LVMH or whether it is, McQueen or anybody else, that's what designers do. They sort of steal the moments of life beautifully and put it into products. And then they make 3 of them and makes you feel so special to have that in your hand. So when you say, what are the luxury things in India? In 1920s, the most luxurious place were palaces. We had the first palaces in the world. And to me, India invented luxury long, long before luxury was invented. Then came the 80s when the 5-star culture. I remember going to the Taj Hotel in Bombay with my dad, and he said, just walk into the door and feel the blast of the air conditioning on your face. And that, in those days, because we had something called Tatas, and they had to throw water on these thorny walls which would cool the house. I'd never seen air conditioner till I was much, much older. I mean, it's funny when I tell my children, they don't believe me. To me, it was a moment of luxury. First time I shook hands with luxury was walking into, and I'd never been to Bombay, so you have to understand I'm talking from a Jodhpur boy's point of view. So the summary of what I'm saying is that anything that lasts for more than 10 minutes, to me, is not luxury. You can check into the most expensive hotel room in the world. After 5 to 10 minutes, you'll probably exhaust yourself looking at switches and the jacuzzi or the bed, and then you'll say, oh my God, this is just another room. And then you start looking for the next thing in luxury. And that's what designers have to learn to take advantage of, is how do you take many of these moments and provide that to your customers. So to me, luxury is an experience that you eat like a pill, and then it comes and it just evaporates in 10 minutes.
That was very inspiring, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting take on luxury as well. So people think luxury means very expensive items that you wear, that you show off and all that, but you have summarized it into like an experience that you have, a momentary experience that you have, So that's a very beautifully summarized explanation for luxury.
Thank you.
So next, Vamika, would you like to ask your question?
Hello, sir.
Hi, Vanika. How are you?
Fine, sir. So, in most of your designs, you have been inspired by the tradition and culture of Jodhpur. So, according to you, how much of a crucial role does tradition and culture play in design?
So, I think if I was to answer that from a design, from your age point of view, I would say that if you had a chance to go to Paris or to London and be different, how would you do it? You could go there and wear what Sonam wore in some movie and look Indian. You could go there and you can, hoist a flag saying, I'm from India. You see, the trick is that the more you use the innate background of your life, your grandparents, go back and see pictures of grandparents, what kind of clothes they wore, what kind of tapestry was there on the curtains, what kind of frames are lying around. You have to take story snapshots of your life, whether it is a privileged life or not privileged, it doesn't matter. But if it is about you, the world will wait and watch. Who has the time to look at anything right now? I mean, you tell me that when you're surfing, it's an up movement, as we call it. If it is not interesting, it takes literally, I mean, the speed at which people move up now is reduced. 2 years ago, it was almost, I think, 3.5 seconds that people would stop and they would move on if it is not interesting. Now it's even less. It's less than 1 second that you stop. So to me, whether you take your heritage, I've taken my heritage and built a story around it. You can find your heritage. Your stories are all written in those lovely books at the back. I'm sure if you go through it, there must be so many memories that'll sort of come up. If you take a little bit about you, put it into your work, you are going to be different. And therefore, I think in context to the question, it doesn't matter whether it's Rohit Bal or Anamika Khanna or Manish Malhotra doing it. You can do that, and you need to train yourself. How do you do that? That's the question. So if you go anywhere in the world, people don't look at you from the point of view being from India. They look at you and say, oh, Vamika's got this amazing story about a kite that she flew, and can you just see what she's posted? So if it's about a kite that you flew when you are age 10 and you connect that to your product that you're selling today, it makes certain value. It makes people stop, and they will stop moving up and they'll go into your story and plug into you. And it's going to get worse. I'm just letting you know that people won't even look. There will be artificial intelligence algorithms that will decide what you see on Instagram. It's already coming. So 80% of people you're following will disappear until you have something unique about what you are putting out there. So if your product or your information, your service, or whatever you are as a designer does not connect with your tribe, because what is Instagram? It's basically, if you go back to Stone Age, the people who you hung out with when we were living in caves, who understand your language are the ones who follow you on Instagram. It's the same thing. It's done more. Technology has changed everything. We don't wear lion cloth and go and hunt for food, but Instagram is reflection of what we were doing, thousands of years ago. And people who only connect with you are the ones who are going to understand your story. The trick is to how do you commercialize that? If you're a designer, then you need to make that available for everybody. Like Anita Dongre has managed to do that beautifully. She's taken a brand, she's made this lovely global Desi story, and now people go and buy into her Instagram post. I think that's the challenge ahead of you guys who are in design and fashion, is how do you make your story more important than everybody else's story? Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shweta, can we have your question, please?
Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, sir. I would like to know what, according to you, is trend and fashion, sir.
Okay, I'll make it very simple. Now that we're talking about Stone Age, it's really easy for me to use an analogy. So, fashion is been with us from Stone Age. We used to, the caveman, the story of the caveman and the flintstone, and So that was fashion for that time, right? Now, what changes every once in a while is style. So fashion is a straight line, but style is the oscillation on that straight line. And now it changes every 30 seconds. When I was in school, it would change every season. Every 6 months, it would change. We didn't have Instagram. Now, style changes. If you are following, you must have heard about Easy tying up with Gap yesterday. So if somebody is doing something, other people see it and instantly change and evolve. So to me, fashion still is a straight line, and trend is the speed of technology in your life. If you live in a village and you're isolated from the rest of the world, your speed of style will be very different from somebody who's sitting in Delhi and Bombay or Bangalore or Jaipur and connecting with the Instagram. Instagram and Facebook has changed how each person's speed of style changes. So comes and says that this is what somebody is wearing, you go and look at that, designers look at that, they create a newer option, and the whole wheel starts moving differently. So that's style. But fashion has been with us. Whether you are fashionable or you are not fashionable, that is also fashion. So people who say, listen, I love wearing khadi kurtas and I don't see, going to a fashion designer, but they don't realize that that is also fashion, right? That is the personality talking to the universe that I wear Fab India and I'm not interested in high fashion. That's their fashion. So fashion is part of everybody's personality and aura. If you dress in a particular way, people, there's a reflection. People, and especially in India, we are very, we look at people from a surface. It's like a cover of a book. And if you have a great outfit, bad shoes, or you have great shoes and bad outfit, there's a particular message you send. So that's your personal style. But are you fashionable or not does not matter, because if you're not fashionable, that becomes your style. And so I've given you two parallel, one, how it changes, and the second is what it means as an individual. Shweta, does that kind of give you your answer?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
That's cool. Okay, Mehak?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Mehak. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. I hope you're doing fine too.
Thank you.
And I actually have a more personal question for you. I wanted to know what inspired you to choose fashion design as a career, and what is your favorite part about being a fashion designer?
So the career just happened to me. As I said, I went to study robotics. I did Greek mythology. I finished my, dissertation was 600 pages on Greek allegory of the cave. I studied Plato. To me, education was the sea that I wanted to float in. The amazing thing is that in spite of doing all that for 6-7 years, my advisor sitting in Marlborough College instructed me to go to a design school. He said, maybe you should go there. I didn't go to study design. If I'd said that, I don't think people would have supported the idea of design, because I'm talking about 30 years ago. So what made me get into design is a mystery. It's actually a journey of my life. I should ask Umesh to talk about more about what prompted him to get from IIT to this amazing early design teaching that they do at DQ Labs. I think that would be more informative for all of us. But for me to tell you that I promise you, I could make electronic circuits. I still know how to use a soldering thing and make a gadget. So I'm a techie at heart, but I can put colors very beautifully together. So the people who saw that at my school in Marlborough College in Vermont, which I was under part scholarship and part I used to work on the campus. They are the ones who suggested that you should go and explore the idea of design, because by painting, what I was learning how to paint like the masters. I was studying Vermeer. Vermeer is this amazing artist who used light and color. And I was absolutely amazed by how they could do it. Vermeer and Bernini, the two names I was studying. I did my thesis on them. I did my thesis on also the allegory of the cave, as I said earlier. But all this was pointing to color and be able to use my hands. So I was recommended, and my advising was so dot on target, luckily for me, that I did do the design stint in my life. And I got lucky that I got a job at, Donna Karen came to the school and she asked all of us to create a portfolio of an assignment she gave, and I was among the 3 that got selected, and that gave me the confidence to push more. Otherwise, I was just like another kid in the school. But once I realized that out of 120 odd kids, if somebody who's running the biggest company in those days wants to work with you to improve their product line, then you've got something that you need to really focus on. And I put all my effort into various different ways to train myself to be able to do that. And immediately after Donna Karen, I got hired by Oscar de la Renta. In those days, Oscar de la Renta was the luxury lamppost. He was the person who had 75 ladies who lunched sit in the front row. Mrs. Brooke Astor, Mrs. Jacqueline Onassis. That was my job, was to service all these ladies with beautiful fur coats, and nobody wanted to do fur. It was the worst thing in the company. Because I was the youngest and I was, new, they told me that you handle the fur department, and I used to get so much hate mail and all that stuff, which nothing in Jodhpur prepared me for, but I had learned on my own how to be ready with what's going to come, because there was a lot of using fur in those days was very complicating. I think if you can Google it, you'll know what I'm saying. But we didn't make our own fur. We used to work with a company and outsource it. So it was not that it was being made in the company. So it was very easy for me to deal with that. But my job became the most important job in the company, because here I was at 4 o'clock leaving the atelier and going to distribute the new fur collection to all these wealthy ladies who would actually make fashion wheel turn round and round in New York. So Mr. De La Renta's car would take me, and I'd be very frank with you that they were not paying me very well for the job, but I thought it was so much experience. So to me, I think it's very important to have the experience. There's always a question somewhere it comes in, and I'll just add to your question and say that what is the difference between learning design in India versus learning design in, let's say, America or London? I just think that, if you learn how to make stuff in India and you learn how things work in New York and London by going and staying there for 6 to 12 months as a vacation, you've got your education. Because the education is so expensive there now, which is 2 crores for a 4-year degree versus 35 or 40 lakhs in India. I just think that it makes no sense to go there to study, save that money to start your own businesses. So summarizing your question, I think it's very important to recognize your talent and pursue that, whether it is in whichever way you want to do. And the second thing is, try to do things at a lower cost. It's very important for you to start thinking like that. So if you have to make a pocket scarf, think of making it the most beautiful way, but instead of getting it done in a fancy factory, go to a lady sitting on the street who can hand make it or something like that. And the same thing applies with your education. Learn the nuances of how Indian fashion works in India, but go for 6 months to Florence and spend your time, go to the museums, go to meet all the factories. That's exactly what we're doing at Design 360. We want the kids to learn how to run the business in India, but we want them to have a rub-off of how the most expensive shoes are made. They need to go see that. They go meet all those people in the 4th year, which is what we have done in the pipeline.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
I think RR, it will be a good time also to, yeah, Umesh, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, please go ahead, Shyam.
No, I think also there was a very interesting story on, the concept on how the Gurukul School of Design came into existence and how it is so much impacted by what RR went through while he was studying in New York and how it came. I think if you can tell students about that, because that's really inspiring, and then and that will be interesting to know.
So I really avoid talking about that because it starts getting into a personal, adventure. But Umesh, if I can answer Shyam's question.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So so when I went there, my parents were very supportive, but the Reserve Bank in those days had a clause that if you could get what you want to study in India, you could not convert rupees into dollars. That was one problem. Secondly, people have this notion that, oh, he's from such and such background, and therefore he had plenty of money and he must have gone to Parsons. It wasn't like that. I went to study Greek mythology and lots of other things in other schools. But the first semester was my deal with my parents that I will go prove it that I can survive it, and then I'll do it on my own, which is exactly what happened. So the first semester at Hampshire College, which actually is the world's most expensive college still today, which is in Amherst, I studied robotics and I did lots of things there. But in the second semester, I chose to transfer and I took the load onto my shoulders, and I got a 70% scholarship at Marlborough College, and the rest of the money had to be made by myself. So I used to, on Sundays, we used to, Jorge and me, two friends, would go and scrape paint off the wooden houses and paint the houses and get, $5,000-6,000 per house. That's how I paid my tuition. My mother came and visited me, and I used to clean the dishes. I used to do all those things that today sounds lovely to talk about, but there was no other option in those days because I had declared myself independent, because it was very difficult for even, I have a sibling. I always start my talks, I didn't today, that your biggest competition really is the sibling who is not in the design world. So for all the students who have brothers and sisters who will probably be doing other things which are not design, you want to beat the speed at which the income comes back to the family. So if they become doctors and they charge fabulous fees, how long will it take for you to make that kind of money? And I think it's a good reflection of my time, because also I didn't want the load on my parents to pay for my education, so I declared myself independent and I applied. So in the third year, when I transferred from Marlborough College to Parsons School of Design, and they took me in the second year. The second year, because I had a good, strong portfolio. They waived my first year, but the problem was that in the last year and a half, money ran out because I could work day and night. I used to work for the Hingorani Group in New York. I used to sketch and get my $30 an hour. But the tuition was so much, the gap was so much that you could stay up the whole night and do other work, and you could not pay your tuition. And my source was running out. So in those days, you could not call at will in Jodhpur. I called my parents from a payphone in the night and was hoping to get connected. It didn't connect for many weeks. And then I said that, that I will not be able to survive. And they said, well, you better come back then, because that was the deal, that one semester the parents pay, and the next 3 years 3.5 years I was going to pay for myself. But my father had met Mr. Robert Walls, a gentleman from America. And so Robert called me up and he said, why don't you come and have lunch with us or dinner with us and whatever. So I say, evening at 6:30, 7:30, I'll see you at this place. Let me know where to come from there on. So I reached this place, and it was a very expensive 72nd Street Upper East Side restaurant. And I didn't feel very comfortable because I was a student. I was a student and everything was budget, the clothes, everything. And I walked in there and I felt it was very stiff, the environment. And they sat me, the two children and Robert and his wife sat there, and they said, what are you doing? And all that stuff happened. And then we looked at the menu, and it was all in French. So to me, it was a quick decision that, I'll have the fish. And they also chose to have the pomfret. It was a pomfret of some kind, a fish. And the waiter came and offered me the first opportunity to eat into it. And I took the head and the part just after the tail onto my plate, which is actually generally not done, because it's actually what you leave it on the plate. I didn't know all this stuff, but I chose to be humble and take the worst parts in my plate and leave the good part for the family, because they were being so nice. And that gesture, you will not believe, made Robert fund the last 2 years of I'm almost teary-eyed about it, but he paid for my education, and he said, just do the same thing for somebody one day. So when I came back to India, the first thing I did was to start my company in Jodhpur, and then move to Delhi. But the second thing I did was to I went to the Chief Minister's office in Jaipur, and I said, I'm looking to set up a school. I'm talking about many years ago. So we bought this little plot to set up the school, because in my mind, I owed that much back to Robert. And my father always told me that, whatever you do in your business, the day you have 1 rupee extra, you should start the school, because that's your promise. And so it took me 10 years to build my brand, which now is luckily, sort of floating in a good place. The day we had that surplus wealth, I sat with my board and I told them, I said, we can keep on opening more stores. I mean, we were going to actually open a store in Europe. We put that on hold and we bought this land, and we wanted to start the school, because I think it is a very important part of my life journey. So somewhere in this discussion, there's a huge emotional give back to the struggle of my last years in America, which actually is translated in this school. So it's difficult to talk like this in a boardroom with my partners there, but the fact of the matter is that this is the real story. So the school actually came about partly because I really think that we need to get involved and be responsible for the next generation. The second thing is that I had a commitment there to fulfill. So Shyam is aware of it, and sometime in my emotional thing, I bring it up again and again. But I hope wherever Robert is looking at, because in the website also we do mention that it's actually an ode to that lovely gesture in my times of difficulty. And you could be a very big designer, but what have you done in your life is the question you have to ask yourself when you're at my age now. And I'm very proud that we have made a little difference in setting up something with a good intention. There are a lot of difficulties and challenges. Shyam is aware of them. But we always will adjust and work around it. So the short and the sweet thing is that it's been set up with this an emotional reason for the school to do something.
Well, also, Arar, you've been hiring students from NIFT and other fashion schools around for last 10, 15 years. And now setting up. So what was it that you looked at even as an employable talent from the leading schools that students want to go? I mean, there's so many who apply to NIFT and they wait all year round to get into that. But what is it that you've seen after having someone who's employed them for so many years and realized and retrained them? And so what was the gap, and how does the school intend to fulfill that? That also I think is important for them to know.
I think this applies to every field. I don't think only to design anymore, that most employers are now looking for mavericks. They're looking for people who can do 10 things, not one thing. I think 5 years ago, all the schools were teaching to be good in one thing and not to worry about the other things. Now you need to be a doctor who can, do surgery, who can go and sit in OPD and meet people, go to someone's house. That is the nature of the new business, because you're selling yourself on the Instagram. So if you are only known to be a heart surgeon, and in your small village, if you only, or your town, you only have 300 cases in a year, that's your portfolio. That's what you're going to take home. But if you're a person who can stretch yourself and say, listen, I'm actually a person who wants to educate people, and I am a heart surgeon, and I'm also a person who can prescribe medicines, then you're a great doctor because you do 7 things, and you'll have this enormous aptitude to have billion followers on your thing who are not only, following you because you're a heart surgeon. The same thing applies in design. So if you're a great designer like Manish or Sabyasachi, you will have the bandwidth of doing so many things. You can do jewelry. So I always talk about the Design 360 program, and it's this kind of a question that why do design schools teach design with a zonal approach? You don't want to be the horse that is at every tonga in Delhi, which has a little covering. So you just focus on the road and you just do one thing. You want to be a person who has a billion opportunities coming at you, and you decide whether you want to design a uniform today or you want to design the a fashion collection, or so we are a good example of that. I mean, when Tanishq, the Tata company, approached us to design gold jewelry, they came to us because we are known to not be fashion designers. We are designers at heart. It's a bit like sugar. You can make a cake, you can make chai out of it, coffee out of it. So it's a designer must be able to do many things. The mistake my young design students make that I've spoken to, I've written so many recommendations to people who have gone abroad, is that they focus on doing just one thing, which I think the time has come to change. And I think it's very important to bring this up, that the Design 360, when you're sitting in a class in GSD, you are learning from the teacher who is aware that in my class, there are 4 types of children. There's a product designer sitting in my class. There's a fashion designer sitting in my class. There's a textile designer and a communication designer. They all are listening and doing different things for the same work. For example, I'll show, if we have the time, I can share that slide that Surit can play at some point, which gives you an idea as to what a course looks like. My only thing is that whichever school you decide to go, whether it is NIFT or Pearl or whichever school, just make sure that you have a course that does not round you up into one zonal focus. Your focus should not be that you can't tomorrow make a chapati if you make rice. If you make rice, you can't make chapati. I think the idea is that if you go to the kitchen, you should learn that you should be able to do anything. So you don't know the future of the market. The questions are coming from thousands of people. Somebody from Japan wrote this morning, said they want something. So if you are not equipped to handle the extension of your investment of time, of education, and your learning of design, then you are going to be going for one thing. And what if you're not good at that and you don't succeed? At least with this kind of education, you learn a little bit about everything. So you can change gears 6 years or 7 years from today.
Sure. That does. Umesh, if it's okay, should we play a little GSD video to understand about it, and then maybe the Guru faculties can come in. Surit, if you can play the GSD video, please.
Surit, it'll be the PPT, so I can just talk because the video will. Oh, you are playing the video.
I think we have time. We'll just play the video first.
Gurukul School of Design basically exemplifies the training in ideation and entrepreneur spirit. It's very important for us to keep an eye on the future of design. The students graduating must be able to cope up with the changes in the market. The universe of entrepreneurs is evolving at a rapid speed. So the idea for us really is to empower them to have a vision, execution, and also semantics of the business of design.
whole idea with Gurukul school of designing is the attention which each and every student would get, which is the very Gurukul way of studying, which is very small classes where the teacher and the student have a one-to-one interaction.
The infrastructure that they get, the environment that they get is very rustic. It takes us back to our roots, which is the Guru Shishya kind of philosophy.
Here we are allowed to breathe into the creativity of our own style, and we are allowed to develop it, and it doesn't have to fit into any norms or conditions.
We also have specializations where you can explore different areas of the design field, and then you can explore a bit more some field that you may want to go into.
We cover everything from how they can sleep better and how they can eat better and how they can use their minds more productively. We introduce them to a bit of neuroscience and Carl Jung and philosophy. So it's trying to make the students more aware.
It's very important that more programs like this be put into place. Very important for schools to understand also what universities are looking for, and also engage with people like us who do offer a lot of internship programs to students as early as class 10 and 12.
I think it's extremely important that we teach our young people to become design thinkers and to be connected to the world of design.
What we need in our modern education system, it brings design center stage, reflection of who we are, and to bring about design in every aspect of our lives, cultural, intellectual, and spiritual.
There's the innate genius in the people of this country. We must make this genius into something which is very global and which will occupy a very seminal place on the globe. And to have somebody like Raghav come and start a design school where he's going to train young people with an Indian ethos, with the Indian culture, the Indian attitude, to be among the best in the world.
हम कहते हैं कि भारत is considered as the Vishwa Guru because of its Vedas, Puranas, and of course the beautiful arts. We should do concentrate on American design or European design or Australian design, but our Bharat design is great than every country.
Raghavendra Rathore's initiative on design education is a wonderful idea. He will reach out and help people enhance their creative spirit, but do it in a manner that they can actually use it to create careers for themselves.
From the curriculum, we are also exposed to some marvelous experiences.
We go on excursions, we go on trips, and we have other outdoor activities as well as theory projects that we have to do.
Then we have workshops like tie and dye, filmmaking, and many more.
I believe that it makes me feel prepared for the industry that I'm supposed to work in.
To explore incorporating the culture, the knowledge that they have, the travels that they have done, the different foods that they have eaten, to incorporate all these little insights in the final project and to see that blooming up, it's amazing.
We are trying to send the students outside to the professional people where actually they have the interaction one-to-one with this, the best industry people.
You should be blessed that you're studying in a city like Jaipur, which is a city that inspires me, inspires, I think, so many designers all over the world. You're sitting in the heart of a creative place.
The history of Jaipur was that the king got all the artisans from all over the country towards Jaipur so that he could promote like poetry and art and different traditions. And that's why Jaipur is so culturally rich as well.
You're actually living at an incredible time in India's history. If you look at the demographics of the country, it's going to be the country with incredible demand, because there's so much you.
You need to be true to yourself, follow your dreams, and be consistent at it.
The whole course is so interdisciplinary. We teach students how to create a concept first and then how to take it to the design, which is going to be contemporary and can sustain in the current market.
You don't want to learn something that is being designed for people who are in the Western Hemisphere. You want to learn and have the training so you can actually unleash your talent and commercialize it as soon as possible for the market that they're going to inherit.
Right, that's quite interesting. So a question by one of the participants related to the design 360 concept. All right, so the student is asking, her name is Kushi. Can we apply the concepts of fashion in architecture or vice versa? Also, are the different design fields interlinked?
So I think that's the point of the program that we offer there, which is called Design 360. For now, we don't have architecture part of that. But going forward, I don't see why we should not. But I completely agree with what she's asked in the question, is that the interlinking of fashion, textile, product, and communication design is absolutely a must for every student to study with a new environment. I cannot stress more that if you choose to just be a fashion designer, you are not doing yourself certain amount of justification, because you must know what kind of shoes, what kind of accessories, what kind of styling goes with the outfit you're creating if you're a fashion designer, and vice versa if you're doing product design, if you're creating a lovely sofa set or a table or even jewelry pieces for a customer, you must understand what kind of fashions they like. So if you don't understand that, then you're an island and you're isolating. So with regards to a question about architecture, I think space design is what fashion shows are all about, is the relevant part. But presently we don't have an architectural wing in GSD, but we are looking at in the near future to have some sort of collaboration with faculty from that kind of a background as well.
Right, cool. And you said there are a couple of works that you would like to show. So can we invite Isodara for taking us through some of the student works?
So there is a slide, a presentation that either Isadora or both of us can talk about. Surit, you have the PPT that has some student work.
Yes, sir. PPT is here.
So is Isadora?
Hello, I'm here.
Today I've taken your slot, so please.
No problem at all. So first of all, thank you so much to be part of this webinar, to be part of your journey itself. It's a huge pleasure to be part of the GSD team. My name is Isadora. I'm a product designer, and I came all the way from Brazil to help the students to understand not only the concept that they have, the Indian context that they live, but also to incorporate my insights as the Western view. So as Raghavendra said, at GSD, we focus on merging the best of the two worlds, understanding what are the kind of crafts that we have in India, what kind of traditions we have, and have a conscious mind of what are the next trends that we are going to have in the Western world, and be able to connect that in order to provide an excellent experience for the customer. So this is the focus of GSD, and this is what the 360 design is all about. Another thing that I think that is super relevant, and Sir commented a little bit about that, is that at GSD, since we believe that design is one whole area, we try to incorporate that also in our syllabus. So for the regular students to understand, the first year that we have the foundation. So it's the first year for you to be introduced about design methodologies, design understanding, color principles. So you have the basic skills. And at this period, as Sir said, we have a very Gurukul way. So we are very intimate to the students itself. So we have a ratio from 5 to 1 students. So one teacher, one guru is going to be handling 5 students. So we have a very close relationship with our students. We understand what are the processes that they're going through. So with that, we are able to guide our students and able to tell them, okay, you should go to the fashion field, or you should go to the product design field, the visual communication, textile. So we can guide the students, and at GSD, if the student feel, okay, maybe I choose fashion in my 2nd year, but it's something that I felt that I like it a lot, but I realized that I have a more technical mind. So I'm better at actually lifestyle accessories, at product design. So at GSD, you're able to merge and to migrate from one specialization to another, because we believe that all these areas are interlaced. So this is another thing that I think it's very, very special about GSD. And it's something that is going to be a little bit special and unique, I think, especially in the future, as I said. Right? So Sudhir, I think he has a PPT ready for us, so that we can talk a little bit about, yes, the 4 years that we have at GSD. And as I said, we try to invest in yourself. We try to have this idea that you, if you want to be a designer at GSD, if you want to be a student at GSD, you have to have this idea that I am investing in myself, and I want to be an entrepreneur in the future. Okay, next slide, please. So right now, due to the COVID situation, we are offering 50% of scholarship for all the 4 years by BDES degree. And we have limited seats available. So if you feel that you have a lot of talent and that you are able to have the talent that we need at GSD, and you have the profile that we're searching for, which is being entrepreneur, being proactive and really passionate about design, this is I think, like the perfect moment, even though we are in the middle of this chaos, for you to sign with us. Tomorrow on the 30th, we are going to have a say. So it's the examination that we have. Again, it's nothing that you need to be nervous or that you need to feel stressed about. It's something very simple. We just want to understand who you are and to feel the uniqueness about you. So we usually have a self-portrait that you should do at home. Then we are going to have an interview with the gurus. I'm usually the one there, so you guys are going to see me again. And we do a small interview. So we ask about the hobbies that you have, what is the passion that you have, how do you see yourself in the future? So these kind of questions are common questions that we usually do in order for us to understand who you are. And then after that, if you pass the interview, then you go to the next one, and then you get to know about us. And usually also we check the portfolio and other works that you have done related to art or design or any kind of the related fields. Okay, next one. So as we said, as I said, and as Raghavendra said, we have the 360 design curriculum, but we have these 4 main courses, okay? We have fashion design, textile design, lifestyle product design, and visual communication. Even though we have these separations, most of the time we have projects that are related to all these 4 areas. Again, we want you to understand that design is one big area that it's interlaced and it's related all the time. And you need to master at least like the ideas and the basics of all these areas in order for you to be a good entrepreneur and a good designer in the end. Next one, please. So we have Industry Connect. Thanks to Raghavendra, so we have a lot and lots of opportunities for us to connect with the experts and the best of the industry. And Sir himself is always very, very present in our daily basis schedule. So the students always have the opportunity to interact with him, to have some great insights about the industry itself. And right now in this image, Sir is showcasing his portfolio and his fashion sketchbook for the students in order for them to understand what is the kind of level that we want for them and what is the level that we understand that the industry needs and demands all the time. Next slide, please. And again, as I said, we try to understand that a designer needs to have a fun environment, needs to have some fun in the life. So we try to incorporate activities that are not like, okay, I need to focus in the work and that's it. Although we have a lot of pressure in the students, especially in the end of the semester, we're not all about fun. But we try to keep a light environment in order for them to be the best and to be more creative as possible. Having that in mind, we also think about the well-being of the students, especially a designer. We deal a lot with close deadlines. So you need to be mentally prepared and mentally stable in order for you to have the best result for your project. So we have, for example, a yoga class on a daily basis. We have a lot of specialized class about nutrition, about philosophy, in order for you to connect and for you to understand a little bit more about yourself, in order for you to pour your soul and your heart into your projects. So these are one of the things that, again, I think that is very, very special about GST. And we always try to understand what are the main talents that you have and try to impose you on that. Try to create like this kind of excitement that you have and try to focus on that. So your talent can be on sketching. So for example, my talent is not sketching at all. I'm a product designer. But for you to be able to communicate your idea, that's the main goal for a designer. So we try to understand who you are. And for example, my talent is origami. It's for me to do 3D volumetric prototypes. So if you are not good at one part, there is no issue. We are going to work with you and going to help you to understand what is your style of expression. And we have a lot of resources. We have an amazing, amazing campus, and would be a huge, huge pleasure for you guys to visit us after all this situation is over. We are situated in Jaipur, and especially the area that the campus is a very, very special area because we are surrounded with different industries. So we have a lot of resources, not only in the campus itself, but the area around us. So these enable us to take the idea out of the paper and for the students to actually incorporate all the visions that they have. A few more slides of our campus. Yes, great. And we have the offsite exposures and learning. So our students, they are always, we always try to keep the excitement alive. And for that, we offer a lot of different travels throughout the semester. So the students, they have been to Delhi, they have been to Jodhpur, they have been to Mumbai, I think. So we try to get, to find the hubs all over the country, and we bring the students there so that they have a better understanding and a better sense of what different areas of India can offer for them. And I'm one of the gurus. You guys can see me there with Andre, another Brazilian designer that we have. And as I said, we try to have a close approach with our students. We see ourselves as gurus, as mentors, someone who is in the same level as you, the student, because we truly believe that. We are there to guide you and not to like scholar you and say like, you have to do that. We want you to be in the same path that we have suffered and that we have been through. And we want to offer you the best of the insights that we have about the industry and about the personal challenges that you face as a designer. And here I think Sir would be able even to talk better than me because this is his vision. But this is the next kind of assignment that we are going to have at Design 360.
I think would Arav also want to speak on, because this I remember is a project from communication to a lot of other things combined. So.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Just take 1 minute, but it's basically a good, one can see this slide and understand what Design 360 is all about. Generally, in a school like fashion school, they'd say, please design uniforms for an airline as a project. But in this slide, as you can see, that the students are encouraged to design everything else. So you don't leave any opportunity for competition to get in. So when you're designing the uniform, which is on the lower left side, the red and the black, you're also presenting to the customer, what should their other branding and, things which have nothing to do with fashion, but you have to understand that, they have to worry about what kind of design the fabric will be for the airlines. So if you see the glass on the top, it has a texture. That's what we encourage students to come up with. Uniform, the bag, the ticket, the boarding pass, and the graphics that basically go on the aeroplane. So a designer today works like this and does not work like the previous decade that has gone by, where we were taught to design just focus on the uniform. You actually have to think of everything else that you can offer to a customer, and chances are the customer is going to increase the job opportunity for your assignment if you have your own company. So this is a good example of an inside working of a document that goes to the faculty to explain. So you start with Simon Singh's videos, so the kids understand what Design 360 is about, and then you go into another video. So there's a lot of interaction with technology that we would like to have in a class. The class is not a boring class where you come and just start painting and designing something. You first understand what is out there, what people have done before you, and then then the assignment is given that think of a name for a new airline, design the uniforms, of course, design everything else. What are the nuances that you need to think about? Where is the geography? Is it in India? Is it in somewhere else? All those things are taught. So it's really what we do in our company today. When we have an assignment to design uniforms for the Taj hotels or for Leela, this is how we work. So this is part of the course now, which and this only is possible because we don't have a reporting to another campus in Europe or somewhere where we can't change the module. This is an India module. This is what the students must understand if they are going to get into business in this country. So Isa, I'll let you take on. This was the slide I wanted to talk about. So,
thank you so much. So, and another thing that at GSD we have is this machinery. We have actually an association with the Jack, Surit and Rusling. You guys can correct me about the institution.
The Jaipur Engineering College, which is 2 minutes from the campus. We want the third year kids will probably be doing this if they go back to school.
That's the plan. So that's the next phase that we are implementing. We understand that the students, especially now, they need to have a clear understanding about machinery in order for them to explore their own creations. So 3D printer, laser cutting, CVC, these are like basic mechanisms and basic machinery that the students have to deal with on a daily basis. And so already commented on that, and you guys, I think you're able to see even more during our video, but this is the kind of style that we have in our classrooms. It's a very relaxed lounge style classroom that we have with sofa, with big tables and chairs, so that the student can actually rest and feel like, okay, I am in an office space and I am understanding what is the kind of project that I have in front of me. These are some of like the amazing experts and industry experts that we have the ability to have a brief interaction to. So we have, for example, Anita Dongri, we have Tina Tariwani, Pariki. So we have different and amazing experts of the industry to connect with our students on a daily basis. Okay, so now I would like to invite Aditi. You guys already heard the vision about GSD of the founder himself and about one of the faculties, myself. And now we would like to invite one of our students so that you guys have a better understanding of her vision about the school. So Aditi, are you there?
Hi, hello everyone.
Umesh, would you like to introduce Aditi being a DQ Lab student and then her journey, and then Aditi can also take on from there?
Of course, yes. So Aditi has been with us for her preparation for getting into a design architecture fashion school. and she has found GSD as a very interesting school to be part of. She really liked the aspect of being an entrepreneur and also a fashion designer together, So she has opted for GSD, and so would you like to share your experience, Aditi? I would like everybody to hear your experience from you rather than me explaining that.
Yeah, definitely. So like, is there any questions specifically that I should answer, or should I just like say whatever I
Okay,
can remember?
start with when did you join the school, and how did it go so far? And
Yeah.
meanwhile, probably somebody can ask the question.
Okay. So I joined last year in August, and I finished my first year, and it's been a great journey. I think something I really like about the college is the opportunity we get, the space to grow. Like Sir said, we get a lot of industry connect. We get to talk to people, get to know their own perspective on different aspects, get to know different techniques from people from the industry, and that's been very interesting to know. And being the foundation here, we don't do only one type of design, we explore everything little by little, so that we have an idea of what we want to do by the end of 4 years, like where we want to specialize. And we also have like a little bit of we also have a good knowledge of everything, so that we can always shift to whatever we feel like. In the end, if I feel like I don't want to do fashion anymore, or I want to incorporate product and fashion together, I always have the comfort to do that, because I already would have learned a lot about it in college itself. So that's something which is very interesting. And I think we're not always indoors, like there's a lot of outdoor and indoor exposure. We go on trips to within Jaipur, we get to see the craftsmen personally working on their work, experience that. I remember we went to a blue pottery workshop in Jaipur, and we got to see the person how learn the techniques from him, paint on it, learn how the color changes, and those things were very interesting. And then we also get to go outside Jaipur, like to we had gone to Udaipur, and we had learned how to paint. And we had also gone to Ranakpur and learned how architecture of Jain temple works. So those things really inspire us to design more effectively, and it also gives us an idea of, like, we don't stick to what we already know, but we can like explore to new things, and that's very interesting. Um,
That's very cool. So we would definitely would love to see your work, what work you have done. If you have uploaded on Behance or somewhere, please do share with us. We will share with all our students.
yeah,
Right?
sure, definitely.
Right. Okay. So anybody else has any more questions regarding Mr. RR's work or the GSD school, what they learn, what they teach in the school? Prisha, would you like to ask a question?
Hi, I have a question regarding Sir's success. Sir, you have made a huge name in the fashion industry. I would like to know how you sold your brand and your clothing, and how you became so famous.
I'm not sure if I'm the right person to give you that famous bit. I'm sitting in Jodhpur, and I'm pleasantly amused by that. Over time, I've realized that if you have something that people want, they will find you. They will find you. They will find a way to get to you, and the entire brand is built on that premise that you really don't have to be. So when I uh, started the business, it was a women's wear brand. Our first show was a women's wear show, but halfway through, I anticipated the future well in advance, and we said that I think there are too many designers doing women's wear, so it's a very big decision. So we turned and did a U-turn, and we made it into a completely menswear brand. This was about 10, 15 years ago. And then the other part, which was very important for me to do, which I wish I had gone to a school like GST to learn, is that designers are generally very emotional about how they take on projects or work environments. So I said, I need somebody who can run the company and I can focus on the creativity of what the workload is. So clearly, the company is now divided into two parts. One is the creative side. So the design team works with me, and the operations and the language for the future, the communication is all handled by my wife, Kavita, and Mr. Kataria, who's the CEO of the company. So I think the combination of having somebody dedicated to run the business and to have creativity, flow parallelly is a very important learning in the fourth year for the kids as well. And when we got our investors knocking on our door, the question we were asking ourselves that why a company out of Jodhpur? Why such a small company? Why is an Italian company looking to invest in this company? Why is Reliance interested in buying such a small company? And the answer to it is actually in the course that we are teaching there, because the future of fashion, if you've seen what they've done last week, where they've hired a designer called Rajesh Pratap to run Satya Paul. Now they're hiring 6, 7 other young designers to run other businesses. This is the future. That's what I'm trying to say, is that go to a school that teaches you to build yourself a confident brand in this future. And I think you will be very successful. But if you're going to a school where everybody else goes to school and you don't know why you're going there, then there's a big question. So my journey has been about focusing on the future now and adapting to it very fast. I think that is the only advice I can give to kids, is that do not follow the herd mentality, build a future. And if you don't take the risk of building your future, you will just be like everybody else, and that will be just part of a figure in some statistics. So the risk is very important. The higher the risk, the better the gain. And you know, in design, you can't really make a mistake, because you get another chance when the next season starts. So why should one not take a risk and experiment and try the luck in the profession of design? So my personal advice is that follow your heart. At the same time, be sensible and plan for 10 years ahead or 5 years ahead in the way you design your company, which is a good understanding of the creative and the design, and also the management of the company. As you can see, Prisha, I keep on dodging the question about me and myself, because I think it's very boring. I want you to gain as much as you can in terms of what you should be doing now. I'm not a good person to talk about my personal side of things, but please, at any time, if you need to get more information, you can always reach out. But forgive me for not boring you with my life and focusing really on what kind of value you should be looking at and your colleagues and students and parents should be doing.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Right. Mr. Raghavendra Rathore, so GSD is offering these scholarships, right? And it is it seems very attractive. I mean, 50%, I think it is up to 50% scholarship for the next 4 years if a student is joining. And I'm pretty much sure this is a very attractive offer, right? So, I mean, what is the reason behind this kind of an offer?
No, I have 2 children who are in boarding schools, and I was talking to the principal the other day, and I said, the kids are with me for 6 months, so you can't charge me what you're charging on a normal year. I mean, as a parent, I was objecting to the school charging for the dorm experience or the football experience they would have, because they're not going to school.
Right.
So the same thought process, we internally decided that why don't we actually remove that quotient, because the students are 90%, they're all working from home and doing everything from home online. And let us see if this builds some confidence and brings a thinking change in how education is imparted in India. So we want to definitely give the benefit that since you are only using resources online, how can we charge you for the other things, so that's the logic. But I also feel that it's very important to see where we stand, you see, as a school, because people who have been initially with us, who joined, I think I had a chat with all their parents, and I said, that there is no school right now, because the first batch that came in purely basis on faith and trust, and they took a risk. But today those kids are really very happy that they joined 2 years ago. And the school looks exactly like what we had promised. We have some very good things in the pipeline. I can't discuss them right now, but I'm really hoping by end of mid next month, we'll have some breaking news in terms of for the students who are there with us already. And we've just secured about 6 internships, which are mentorships, we call them, for the third year, third year kids at Anita Dongre and a couple of other places. So the summary is that, when you feel it from your heart and you pass this benefit to the parents and the students, we expect that this would really have an impact and make people realize that, there's something new happening at this place. This is a great opportunity that I'm having to pay literally from 5,70,000 a year to 2 lakh something, I believe. Why don't I experiment with this whole, new way of looking at things instead of going to something which is very archaic, and there's hundreds of people doing the same thing there. So that was the real need. It was partly the situation that we are all dealing with, and also to bring some more interest in young people's minds to see and to prove them that we really have something very fresh and new to offer.
Right. So I would like to ask one question from a student perspective. So especially whenever they think of doing a fashion design course, the first thing or the first thought that comes in their mind is the NIFT, the National Institute of Fashion Technology, right? And let us say somebody has got through a good rank, so they have these two options now that they are hearing about GSD, and they also have got an admission in NIFT, right? So now from a student perspective or a parent perspective, when we see a lot of advantage here in GSD and also the NIFT option, because that's the option that they have been looking forward to, because they're not aware of the other opportunities that they had. So there's a very strong tussle that happens in the parents' mind and students' mind. Their heart may say that, okay, this school seems to be very promising, very progressive, and I can get mentored directly under the stewardship of Mr. RR. And NIFT is also there. It's like a brand that has been there since a long time. So, what should a student or a parent think at this juncture?
So I think, in due fairness to any other schools, whether it's NIFT or other schools, I would say that, the fact that you've got into a school, the GSD school is in a position to waiver an exam, because that exam, this exam or another exam, if you've got into a school, you've got credentials that are very good. That's the number one thing I would say, that recognize that you are talented. Once you have that stamp, and I would apply, this would apply to somebody who gets into, again, I'm saying any other school. So if you are a person who's got into a school in the first shot, then you must then be in a position to take a decision that what is the dividend, as in what is the investment that I'm doing in myself? Are you just looking to go through a 4-year program that has been running for 10 years or 25 years now, or 30 years, I'm told? Or are you looking at doing something which is more contemporary and much more brazen and takes you straight into the launching pad of at least 2 brands? There are 2 brands. There's Amrapali, the jewelry brand, and the RR brand. And I've gone on record earlier also, and I think Amrapali has also, that a certain percentage, I think it's 10% or 15%, depending on what kind of the size of the class is, we will absorb in the first year. So there is a complete blanket, security blanket that you're already in a job. Like Oberoi Hotel works with the Oberoi School to get the kids the staff at the Oberoi hotels. The same concept applies here, that if we see somebody, like there's a person I'm working with right now, one of the kids from the school, I just think they're so talented that I've given him such a good offer that he can finish his school, and the priority I want him to do is to focus on his strength. So when somebody has the talent, I don't think in this day and age you should wait to graduate.
Absolutely.
That's very important, that parents realize that, that do you want your children to wait for 3 more years, 4 more years to graduate and then to get a job? Or do you want them to parallelly start working? I started working
Absolutely.
when I was at Parsons. I was working at Donna Karen. I didn't finish and then go job. So I think the speed at which you can bring back wealth in your life so they can start living is very important. And I think that connect at GSD. And the last point I quickly want to say is that we are very, very convinced that certain amount of time must be spent in Europe, which we are guaranteeing within, as I said, in the next month, we'll know much more clearly how this is going to work. But I want the kids to go and see. So I didn't know this till I asked my head designer that why don't we make sunglasses and launch them in Europe under the brand? And they came back and said, sir, do you know that there's only one company in the world that makes all the sunglasses for 465 designers? I didn't know that. I went to Italy to see this factory and it has completely changed my vision. So I want the kids to feel what I feel today, and I want it to be in their early years of life. So when they are sitting 10 years, 20 years into their product line and creating a shoe, or whether it is an outfit, they should know what is being made. What is being made in China? What is the different mechanism? And I used to make my shoes in China. We canceled the contracts there because the soles are falling apart. So we now make our factories in Italy. We make it there. I want the kids to feel that. Now that experience is a very boutique experience in the 4th year that we offer at GSD. And I'm sure if Amrapali was with me, they would explain the same thing in jewelry, because they have a very good setup there. So there are 2 brands behind it. And I think that should be a good consideration people should have. I think it's never about what certificate, what marks you've got. It's what about you are going to do with it now. That's the big question that the student has to ask and resolve it at their level.
That's pretty cool. I 100% accept with you, especially on the fact that we don't have to wait till you finish a school to get into the profession. Start, learn whatever is required to do your profession, or start the journey of being an entrepreneur as a fashion designer right from the school time. You don't have to wait for the school to finish. And yes, GSD definitely gives that opportunity to pursue what they want to do. So probably one small last question. Mariam M is asking, how would the classes be conducted amid the lockdown? Is it possible to have design classes online?
So we are lucky to have migrated very quickly. I mean, the faculty has been hugely supportive in doing that. So we were, I think, one of the first schools to go because we are small. Most of our lectures. So the interesting thing is that we've learned that I think through Zoom, you can actually invite anybody that I know in the industry, which with 30 years of experience. So we've had some fantastic people interact with the students. This was never a thought we never had thought of this before, because we used to always worry about flying people in from Bombay to meet the students. But I think the students have responded very well communicating online. So we have a very nice sequence of people coming in, when they come. So I think this education has to work hand in hand with a physical experience and, of course, the online experience. The online experience is taking precedence right now because of the situation. But once this opens up, I think it'll be very important for them to go touch, because fashion or luxury is about touch and feel. If you don't feel the fabric, or you don't feel the wax or the clay or whatever you're creating, then you're working on Photoshop and it's different. So as an education, it should be 50-50. Right now, because of the situation, it is completely 70% is all online. And I think now they are all on vacation. They start the internships with us or mentorships with us. So, and everything is online again. So even the internships that we have got secured for the kids are all online with all these big corporations and companies.
Mhm.
So I think somewhere in the next year and a half, we'll go back to a normal life. But for the next 1 year to 1 year and a half, I think we have to adapt to a new way of working and everything. I'm talking about even fashion business is doing the same thing. So it's not only education, it's the other businesses as well.
Right, cool. So a few of the participants are asking about expressing their interest of joining GSD. So is there a deadline? Whom should they contact? Or
If you actually visit the website, which is, I think, it's www. I want to join GSD, or the other one is our website, which is
gurukulschoolofdesign.com. That's the website.
And we have I think on the 30th, where people who are ad hoc applying for scholarship because there's a interest in securing those 50 seats. I would encourage whoever is interested, definitely apply. You can change your mind later, but definitely apply and understand. And if you get into it, I think I will personally do a separate session where you can clarify any doubts the students may have or the parents may have. But 30th, I think, Raslin, you can discuss when is the...
Yes, so it's the next situation exam and interview, as we call it. It's a very, very simple process. The students just need to go to the website, fill their application form, and send a home exam. And the home exam is also quite fun. It's nothing tedious. I'm sure they're going to enjoy it while sending it. And thereafter, you'll get a call for the interview. And it's, again, a simple format. It's all online. The counseling team will share all the details and the links with the students. And they'll be given a time slot. And,
so I think Rasleen, portfolio of most of the students are ready. So all they need to do is fill the form. There is no application fee. That's only waived for because we want to as many students to avail at least the entrance process. And then finally, we select 50 students, finally, as RR said. So this is for 50 all across India. The applications that we would have got amongst that, we will be selecting only 50 students. And they apply by the link. I think link is already put on YouTube by the on the YouTube live by the team. So they can follow that link. Also, it's available with the DQ Lab team. And they can alternatively message Dion or anyone from DQ Lab, and they will contact us, and the GSD team will get in touch as well. So these are the 2-3 entry points that they can inquire or do it. So yeah, that's how it is.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we crossed our 6 p.m. limit. Okay, so there are a few more questions. Okay, but I'm not sure if we can ask those or not.
Please, I'm fine as long as you have the time. This is dedicated to you, so please don't hesitate. If there, I'd be very happy to quickly. I'm worried about Shyam and other people who got so much to do. This is a really season time, so please.
Right. So, so you have been stressing on a bachelor's of fashion, the BDes degree. Okay, so Shaira is asking, okay, there are some BSc in fashion degrees also available. So what is the difference between a BDes in fashion design and BSc in fashion design?
No, my question is that let's say if I was a journalist from India today and asking you, and you're really successful entrepreneur 10 years from now or 5 years from now, and so they will ask you that, can you please tell us about your life? And if you say that I've got this degree or that degree, I think that's the only reason. Chances are that most people who are really focused will be very successful in life. So if you have a degree which does not have a context to what you're doing, then there is a big question. That's the only thing that I spoke to a couple of people who actually have diplomas and things, and they say, listen, we actually hide about it. We don't talk about our thing. These are people who are become brands now. And to me, I think going forward, if the more information you put out there for people to see on your Instagram handle or whatever it is, the better it is, because in one snapshot you can see. I personally think that the more relevant question is that, is it important to go to a design school or not to go to a design school to be a designer? That question I can definitely handle. But if you have a choice of taking A degree, B degree, C degree, I would go with a degree which is relevant to what my thing is. If I'm taking a science degree and I'm studying design, it's very misleading. The algorithms in Google don't pick it up. If you actually type in fashion designer and you have a degree which is stating in your biodata science, it will not pick your thing up. And that's a huge consideration in the future, because you do realize that today job interviews are conducted through every search that you have searched. I mean, I have access to a website that can tell me that the next candidate walking in is a designer for my activewear line. So what Rasleen can do is to go to the website and see what you have searched in your life. There's everything that you're searching is out there for people to see. And that gives you a snapshot, and it gives you a profile of the person's interest before even I start asking questions. I mean, this is happening in a design room. I don't even want to know what the big corporations are doing, because they're getting all this data. So if you have data which is about your personality, which is not a design storyboard, then what storyboard is it, is the question. So the summary is that it's really how earnest are you and how comfortable are you to have a degree which is not necessarily connected with what you're pursuing. If that sort of gives you an answer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there is one student, Dakshita Deshmukh. She is from NIFT Jodhpur first year. Okay, and she is asking, can we make a good biodata, or is it fine to be interned and not get paid? Okay, I think there are. Okay, I think what you write on the biodata, is that more important? If that is so, then can they get interned without not getting paid?
So there are two questions I can see.
Right.
I would like to ask the first question to my assistant who's on the line, Rasleen. When you get a inquiry on email saying I want a job with your company, what is your first reaction? Why don't you openly discuss it with the students, and Umesh can also ask the question. How does it work before you present it to me? What is it that you're looking for?
So firstly, I see the subject that they've mentioned in the email. What does the subject line say? Does it say hi, or does it say hello, or does it say like request for a job application, or request for a suitable position in the company? Then that's when I go through the email. Then I see how that email has been written. Does it say like, again, is it a formal email where it says that dear sir or dear ma'am, I'm writing to you, etc., etc.?
Can you also please explain why do you do that? Because I think you need to explain why you look at the subject more than anything or whatever you said. If you can explain why, it'll be great.
Yes, I'd love to, because it's a very basic thing. If I'm writing to a company to apply for a job, it has to be a formal request, and it has to catch your attention the minute you see it. It can't, if it's a vague subject line, then it might just go to the spam folder, or you may not even want to look at it because you have, say, 100 or 200 emails coming into your inbox every day. So it's very important to firstly catch your attention. Then the notes that you've written, which is your opening letter or an opening email, that has to be formally written, and the purpose has to come through in the first paragraph itself for you to be able to understand that what the other person is trying to say. Your resume has to be crisp. A lot of times people have like a 2-pager or a 4-pager resume, but if you have a crisp, nice visual portfolio, as I would call it, with some icons on it, or which is self-explanatory, and of course a portfolio link.
In other words, you're saying that in the 30 seconds that you have the time, as you used to work for Anamika Khanna before, you worked with me, I'm sure the same protocols worked in every office, that you're trying to find something unique in the person.
Absolutely. And the other problem that happens is they'd send like a very heavy file, which nobody wants to open. So the portfolio again has to be sent very carefully. It has to be a link, but it has to be a file that anybody can even open on their phone, because everybody is not on the systems all the time.
So I think I'll just summarize what Raslin is saying, that most designers have people like Raslin guiding them, because 90% of my effort is taken over by Raslin, and she will receive portfolios. If she sees there's something really interesting, she'll flag it and she will send it to my table, and then I get to go into that folder or file or whatever it is. So first is that if it is written with lots of other designers in the CC, I don't think anybody opens it. All the designers are all on, we all are on a chat group. People send messages saying that, have you also received it? Have you also received it? So my recommendation would be that make it personal, number one. The second part of the question was about paid or non-paid. I personally think the time of internships has gone. I think if you are thinking of doing a 6-month internship, nobody will be paying you money, number one, because of COVID now, and also as people get invested, that's where they'll start cutting corners first, because that's not important for the company to work. So if you're looking for a paid internship, you have to come up with a very unique proposition. If you just say, I'm doing this, because a lot of people say that my school requires this, can you please help me do this? This is a letter from my principal or whatever it is. I don't think that's how you know that you're not, that means the school's not taught you how to do it. It's very important for you to be able to say, hello, sir, have a look at my Instagram profile. That's it. There are more times that people are using technology to see who you are than they are seeing your portfolio. No one's going to go and look at a portfolio anymore. And I'm telling you this now, mark my words, in 4 years, portfolios will be in your websites and your Instagram handles, not things that you carry physically. No one's going to appreciate you carrying something in their office. It will be seen as hazardous material coming into. So the summary of that is that which school or whichever school you are at must awaken you and say, present yourself differently. Do it like when Cartier was designing jewelry for the Maharaja of Jodhpur. You should see the story, how they came to Jodhpur with the jewels in their hand, in the bags, in the little fabrics they were tied, and showed it to the Maharaja, and they sat there and sketched and said, this is the necklace we want to create. That is what is the way you have to present. It's the whole bespoke approach about your personality. Until you believe that you are special and you are the idol in the temple, no one else can believe it. So your presentation, your internship, or your job request, if it is like every other mail that is coming in, then you are not doing yourself a favor. You're just sending some script in, pressing a button and sending it to any other designer. So I'll be very careful how you present yourself. And in terms of paid internships, I think the idea of internship is to be non-paid. Some stipend I can understand, but a lot of people will not be in a position to pay, because it's an expense. If you have 30 interns, that's a lot of money. So most companies will avoid doing that. Smaller companies might take it up.
Those are fantastic inputs, Mr. Raghavendra Rathore. There is one parent, Alago Meenakshi. She's saying, I wish my daughter to get educated in GSD. She would like to know about the placements once they finish the course.
So I think, Raslin, you have the list of where we have secured for this batch, the present batch. If you can just, so there's Bharat
Tiles.
Bharat Tiles is a person in Bombay who's doing something amazing with cement. They're taking cement and making it luxury. We want product designers in our school to go and do 1 week. We don't want kids to be outside doing things which they don't need to, because these kids are very smart. They know you don't have to take a tempo to learn to know what it costs to take a tempo. So the idea is to expose them to the owner. That, as I said, GSD is a boutique school. We want them to go meet the owners of companies, sit down with XYZ and understand how they create their company so they can have a rub-off effect of an entrepreneur. So we're working with a cement company, which is for the product designers. With regards to fashion, we are in talks with, as I said earlier, some designer in Bombay, where they will go and see how a collection, what is the processes of the collection. So for all the fashion designers, that will be the interest area. For communication, we are talking to two magazines, and again, they will go meet the editor. They will not go and sit in the office somewhere at the back and make coffee for the people. And of course, we are doing 3 internships with one product designer, one, I think, fashion designer. So, Rasleen, if you have those slides of the student work and what we have been able to do with that, I think it would be very good for the students to see, because I think the presentation that Surit has is missing those slides.
Sure, I'm just going to do that. Surit, could I request you to open the PDF file?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think there are 3 slides we are talking about.
Yes, yes. We'll have to just quickly scroll through that presentation, and we'll come to
it's
a particular slide.
Just now, it's actually in the, I think you've got an old file or something, it was missing in the present file.
Yes, but I've understood what you're referring to. So.
Okay.
Please allow me.
Once you start it, Surit, just quickly scroll down to, I'll tell you the slide number 18.
So in the meantime, what I can quickly give you a brief about, so you were asking about student work. So what you will see in these 3 slides is the student work on the left side. So one of them is a print. I think 2 of them are prints that the students had created. They worked, I mean, our teams have got involved with their artwork and given it a sort of a tweak. And then we have the product that we are proposing to create with it. And this is 3rd year student work. So it'll give you a good sense that what is the maturity, the level of maturity of the work. And sometimes the students are very rigid in their approach. So they say, no, we don't want to change this. And so our job would be in this internship for this project would be to explain to them why from blue, pink, and green, it has to be black and white, because the product has to eventually sell in the market. So it's a lovely journey from creation and then understanding why they need to readapt to the market condition, and then what is the product that they can create with it.
Right.
I think also, sir, what ma'am was asking is what Umesh just mentioned is the placements, as in once they graduate. I think you may want to talk about the RR company and Amrapali once again for ma'am's reference.
But after 4 years.
Yes, sir.
So after 4 years, as I said, that they have an option of with any designer brand, but more important. Sorry, just to finish this 3 slides. So you see the artwork on the left side,
right? Yes,
created by a student, and then you see the product which is being translated onto an outfit, which is a print. Can you move to the next print, Surit? So that's the artwork again, and it's a target audience is Khan Market crowd to create a dog cushion, which sells very well in Delhi, incidentally. So, and can you move to the 3rd product, which is a jewelry piece, which is on showcased on a runway. So this is just some idea of how work actually gets translated from the kids. If they work with the internship program with Rasleen directly, what we'll end up doing. Suri, that's good. Thank you. Thank you so much. So the question, if you're saying that what happens after the 4th year, so as I said, there are 3 doors that they can choose to open. One is to become an entrepreneur, because hopefully when they finish, they will have a business plan, a chartered accountant, everything that what I was running around trying to do when I started my business will be with them, hopefully part of a kit before they graduate, which is the logo, the brand, the registrations, understanding of taxes, and then of course, what do you do you go online or do you go as a physical office? Where's your office going to be? The other person who's not sure about what will probably get a rub off for about 6 months to a year working with either a colleague of mine or work with our company itself. There are certain positions that we are hoping to take from the batch. I'm already convinced that there are more than 10 kids that we can work with. And these are again going to be in communication, it'll be in fashion, it'll be in product design, it'll be all scattered. And of course, the last thing is that you go and work for a brand. So whether that means getting a job at Raymond's or getting a job, that's a complete decision the student will take. And the counselors and the faculty will take that call with them on the 4th year. But I personally think the world will change so much in the next 2 years that by the time the kids graduate, I think that there's a big change coming, and their experience in Italy will be a very important aspect, which is the 4th year experience. So we are actually going to wait and watch and see what, because we don't have a batch in the 4th year. So it's all a learning experience for us, and we are learning so much from the students' inputs that we get. So I think that it will be fantastic that they have all the 3 options available when they graduate, rather than just saying now you go figure out, go with your portfolio and get a job somewhere.
Right. Also, Umesh, I think this is the only design school in the country which is run by a designer of the status of Mr. Raghavendra Rathore. So it's the industry who's running it, and along with him, all the colleagues of that genre are with the brand running the school. So obviously, placements are that way. The exposure throughout the course and the placement obviously eventually get impacted, because it's not a stale course. It's changing every week as per the industry. So that's where it is.
Absolutely.
Sorry, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, definitely. I see that as a great advantage for the students who are joining GSD, getting mentored directly from the industry experts. So that is fantastic. So I would like to ask my students who are attending the Zoom meeting here, would you have any last questions would you like to ask? Any one of you? If you have any, you can just unmute yourself and you can ask your question. If not, then we can probably conclude the session for today.
Umesh, there is one question online from a student called from Bhavya.
Okay.
So the question here is, how much of importance does GST give to a portfolio during your entrance process?
So I think the answer to that is better answered by faculty and the people that we are putting on the So what I don't want is to have only faculty looking at the students coming in. Last year, I tried to get an army officer to sit on a design panel to judge, because we are looking at emotion, we're looking at the passion, we're looking at how sincere are these children to convert these 4 years into wealth for themselves. That is the premise. So as I said, if you have a good portfolio, which is 50%, okay, you are nothing to worry about, because we don't expect it to be 100%. That is the mistake a lot of schools make, where they expect it, because they're comparing you with hundreds of people coming in. We are very selective in our approach. We're looking at 50 students. So if you are really, really A+, you have a very good chance. But if you are B+, but you speak very well, and you can explain your desire to be part of this amazing space of it's not a school, it's not a fashion company, it's a lovely sort of hub of creativity. If you can explain that, that's good enough. So if you can sketch well, it really gives you don't have to say very much. But if you think that your portfolio is not strong in terms of sketching, we are looking at people who can communicate, because we have a communication department, which is basically about talking well, doing a styling workshop with some Bollywood star. And you don't need fashion in terms of sketching knowledge, but you must understand how do you sell yourself, how do you talk about yourself. So it's really going back to the first question or the second question about why is it so important to deep dive into your family, your dadiji or your dadaji or somebody from your family, and create part of the portfolio to tell us a story about you. And if you don't have it in your portfolio, you have a portfolio, that's fine. Just talk about it. So it's really about a new way of looking at it. It's exactly if you change place and you are sitting in a panel and looking at yourself, what would you be wanting to say that others haven't said? So any uniqueness will go a long, long way. Shyam, you can polish that and correct that if I've not been able to explain that well, but I think more or less we're looking for, it's about the story about you. That's what our intent is about.
No, I think you summarized it right. It's more about them, and yeah, it's not about only about the skill. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, cool. So I think there are a couple of students. Yeah, who is that? Okay, so I think we had asked a lot of questions and we got great insights from you and also with your team. Okay, I would like to take a moment to thank all of you. Thank you, Mr. Raghavendra Rathore, for your valuable time and giving us a peek into your journey and also explaining certain things very nicely from your perspective. It's quite an eye opener for us. And I would like to thank Isodara, Rasleen, and Shyam Singh for organizing this meet, without which this would not have happened. Okay, and Shyam Singh, thank you so much for your initiative.
Thank you, Umesh. Thank you for.
Thank you, Umesh. Thank
Cool.
you.
And I would also like to thank the students who have taken that initiative to come and ask the burning questions that they have about your work and about you. Okay. So, and I would like to thank all the audience who have been with us very patiently till the end. Okay, and I hope this session has been useful to help you understand your general questions regarding the fashion as a career and also understanding Mr. RR's work and the GSD school, what he is leading. All right. And please feel free to contact any of us for any doubts or any issues that you have. If you want to get admissions, we can also help you out on that. Right. And please remember, every Sunday, 4 to 6, we are bringing in a very well accomplished professional, creative professional in the field of architecture, fashion design to help us all understand the profession in depth so that all of you can take necessary steps to help yourselves grow further. All right. So thank you so much, everybody.
I would just like to add something here.
Yes, Sean.
I think it's amazing, Mr. Rathore, how you it was not just about being a designer. Okay, there were so many other important points you spoke about. I like your practical approach, like you kept insisting on the power of social media, about thinking like an entrepreneur. When I said thinking like an entrepreneur, what you showed about if you are to design, if you've got like a project to design uniforms for an airline, it's also your opportunity to also look into their logos, and all their other visual communication. I mean, it gives you a window of opportunity. So that was a very interesting insight out there. Also, the way you keep saying, you have to be future ready. There's a change coming, and you got to be awake. So it's much more than just being a designer. And I think your practical approach clearly shows in the 360 program that you have. I think it was amazing. It was something really insightful for the students. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ron. That's your observations are very inspiring, and my team, Surit, Rasleen, and the design mentors like Isadora and of course Shyam, we really look forward to feedback. If you feel that there is something that we can do to incorporate much more involvement of students, parents, as I said, this is really your school. It's not really my school or anybody's school. It's you should be able to, like Lego, suggest some ideas, and Sham can really relay those to us, and we'll be very happy to have more interactions with the young talent and guide them. I mean, that's the main idea.
That would be amazing, and I'm sure the students would really look forward to that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank Aditi. It's really nice seeing you there. I remember you in class. It's really nice seeing you, I mean, it's nice to have you as part of this webinar. Thank you for coming as well. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Cool.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you again, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.
All right. So just a minute. I'll take this stream off online. Okay. Just hold on.
Yeah.